Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Welcome, Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Good morning. How you doing, Vinny?
I'm angry.
I know.
Well, we can talk about it because one of the things I'd like to talk about, we've got a student on hold. We'll be right with you, Ben, in Illinois, in just a few seconds. I'd like to talk with you for the rest of the broadcast about the sum of all individual greed and the sum of all individual stupidity and how it relates to science and how we are taking ourselves down through those sums, literally. But before we do that, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Ben in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Doc Ram.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, Jason put me on the line. The reason I called is because I'm a 9-year veteran in the United States Army, and I recently became aware of the difficulties associated with veterans that were over in that arena, the Middle East and the Gulf War thing. And so I wanted to reach out and be of some support and help to other veterans who are strongly affected by vaccines and exposure to chemicals and depleted uranium and all that sort. So I'm not sure if this relates to what's on your program this morning, but that's actually why I called Jason.
Actually, Ben, it does, because this is part of the sum of all individual greed by the merchants of death, the war machine, and all individual stupidity. Because spraying our troops, spraying the planet with herbicides, insecticides, depleted uranium, it's beyond stupid. So yes, it does.
It is. I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
So what would you?
I watched the movie Beyond Treason yesterday, the documentary, and honestly, my heart was broken, and I just cried for the absolute insanity associated with destroying the environment over in the Middle East. It was stunning. And it changed my life forever.
And would you share with our broadcast class from It's Worldwide some of the highlights of what you saw and why it broke your heart?
Well, the key thing is that the after effects of using depleted uranium on tanks and civilians over in Iraq will never, ever, ever be removed. The uranium dust that's in the atmosphere will never be removed. It will always be contaminated and contaminate the people for life. And so what that means is when the uranium affects their bodies, that their cells will be damaged, and so it causes all kinds of cancers. It causes extreme, hideous birth deformities, and the infrastructure of the country is so destroyed. They don't even have the capability of notifying their people of the dangers associated with what happened over there. So the insanity is that the so-called leaders of the military-industrial complex have made a choice to do something that affects that area of the globe forever. It's shocking. So those people are going to be dealing with radioactive waste and contamination forever. And
let me just shed an example.
Yeah.
It's not just there. During the event we know as Chernobyl, the nuclear reactor meltdown. Okay, let's just discuss that for just a second. I don't mean to derail us, but it's similar. It's similar in many ways. So, what happened was there was a nuclear meltdown in Russia. The reactor sent radioactivity into the environment, and there are downwinders from this massive catastrophe. And by the way, it's a man-made catastrophe. People did this. It's not like it came from someplace else. We did this. We as in people. So what Russia did, or the former Soviet Union did, was, what do we do with all that contaminated land? It's farmland. It's grazing land. We raise animals for food on that. There are farmers downwind. What do we do? Well, instead of fencing off that land, what the government did was build a computer system to track the food animals so that everybody would get his or her fair share of contaminated radioactive meat.
Unbelievable.
That's what they did. So, yes, it is unbelievable. Who in their right mind would think of something like that? Well, obviously, the kind of ilk that would think of, let's spray the Middle East with depleted uranium. So we have all this depleted uranium. Now, why is uranium used as projectiles? Why? Well, Doc Ram can talk about that. What about the mass of uranium compared to the mass of lead? Dr. Richard Allen Miller, would you like to address that?
Well, yeah, I don't know where to go with this. Plutonium is the bad one. Uranium is really bad, but plutonium is forever. And that's what they use in all the reactors. The whole idea originally was that they were going to do this for good power, cheap power, and then they would come up with a solution to get rid of the radioactive waste. They didn't. Now, here we are at the end of days with Fukushima. I mean, that is a catastrophe for the Earth. You talk about uranium, I'm concerned about all the different reactors. It's just, I don't know what to say about the whole thing.
All right, well, I'm
looking up right now how to get rid of nuclear waste.
That's impossible.
Because I don't know how to do it. You know, lead is one thing, but then all the tanks leak. At some point, they wear out and fray. There's modafinil will take it out of your body, and exclusion zone, or what we call fluorine waters, will bioremediate these radioactive wastes out of your body. Now that's, what we've got for the moment.
Ben, let me share this with you in our class.
Yeah.
When I'm sure you've had a chance to fire a rifle, a pistol, and a shotgun, and you know that the projectiles, also known as bullets or pellets in a shotgun, were used to be made out of lead, and the reason is because of the mass of lead. It was heavy for its physical size, so you could send downrange a heavy projectile. Well, depleted uranium is even heavier for that size than lead. So when you send one of those downrange, it has way more destructive energy when it reaches its target. So what a great idea. We can send this nuclear waste out of the United States. We can spread it around at these little countries that we want to go and beat up. And who cares about the cleanup? That's what must have gone into the thinking, because nobody in their right mind would have agreed to do this. I have a friend. He's a USA Preparedness instructor. His name is Andy Gibbs. He's in the West Coast. And Andy Gibbs got into my Alfa Romeo one day an Alfa Romeo Alfetta, and he was fiddling with the seatbelt in the passenger seat, and he didn't like it. I mean, he was in the car for like 8 seconds, and he's fiddling with it, and he looked at me and he said, "Who approved this design?" He didn't say, "Who designed this dumb seatbelt?" Who approved it? Because obviously you can have a jerk design it. But who was the guy that said, "Yeah, let's run with this"? Well, that's the same question we should be asking about lots of things.
Totally.
Who approved?
Totally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
you were
no,
sick
I
to your
wonder,
stomach. You have a broken heart. What do we do now? What do we do now, Ben?
Well, create awareness. That's a start. I mean, be informed, create awareness. I mean, the big question is, how do you get to these people that approve, spreading radioactive waste and exposing American citizens to it, our troops to it, the people to it, without any regard for the cleanup and for the planet? We're in one big fishbowl. When you crap in the fishbowl, it's going to spread around to everybody else eventually. So that's what they did with no regard for it. It's just pathologically insane.
Stephen Hawking, a brilliant scientist, said, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the quote in front of me, but he said, "We have passed the point of no return. We have got to find a way to get off this planet because we have done so much damage to it. It will end our humanity. It will end us. So we've got to leave the planet because we've passed the point of no return." That's another way of saying that I know how it's all going to end, with the sum of all individual greed and the sum of all individual stupidity. It's science. It literally is science. We have done this. Well, another example, Alexa. There are people who have these Amazon Alexa devices that listen in to their every sound in their house, and they think it's great. Now, forget let's put off to the side the security and privacy invasion of this mass stupidity of the customers who buy Alexa. Forget that. Let's talk about this thing is being powered up 24/7. Think about the energy wasting of these GDP who can't turn on the light switch for themselves. So they have to have a 24/7 monitoring device in case they want to turn a light switch on or off. Ben, please stay with us. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. And just to follow up, Ben had to jump off the line during the commercial break. But just to finish up. So we're talking about stupidity and the science of stupidity. What happens? So in order to have Alexa working, you have to have Alexa plugged in. It has to be powered up. And just in case you want to say, turn off the lights or turn on the lights or turn off the television or whatever you have Alexa do, because we're too lazy to do that ourselves. So because of that, it has to be up 24/7. And because it has to be up 24/7, your Wi-Fi has to be up 24/7. So now we have these Wi-Fi devices being connected, running 24/7. Electricity is not free. Electricity is not clean. There is no such thing as clean electricity. Even the electricity I have here at our farm, which we generate from the sun, is not clean. Why is that? Because it took manufacturing processes, rare earth elements, plastics, glass, aluminum, and other products to be combined to make the system, as well as copper wire and insulation and other electronics. So even though we might say solar energy is clean, it's not. It's cleaner, probably the cleanest over the long run, but it is not totally pollution-free. So now we have energy that comes from coal, natural gas, nuclear reactors, dams. All of the energy that we have causes pollution of some kind, all of it. So now we have these devices running 24/7, draining the electric grid of electricity of which we have to resupply it. More pollution. It is beyond stupid. And where's the greed part of it? Well, people like Jeff the bald-headed Bezos. He's making a fortune on Amazon. Yeah. And instead of you going to the store and buying a bunch of things that you need, they all get shipped to you. Individual transportation, individual boxes, individual plastic packing. That I'm sure you all throw out. Because what are you going to do with all those boxes and packing? So that individual greed and individual stupidity is related to science. And we're killing ourselves with it. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, any comments before we go to Mark in Illinois?
No, you've pretty much said everything. We're in a serious problem with this.
Mark in Illinois, welcome. You're on with Doc Ram.
Hey, good morning. Last time I talked to you about Fukushima and Russia, Chernobyl being scalar energetic platforms for using for scalar energetic weapons. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the space shuttles. In 1986 and in 2003, in 86, I was at Edwards Air Force Base when I wasn't there for all, but I was there when the last space shuttle was built and piggybacked down Canaveral. But all four of them are built at Edwards. And the one exploded, I think, in 1986, and then the other one was exploded in 2003. I've seen the footage from NASA. I got to see it. I don't remember how I did, but I've seen the footage of the starboard camera on the space shuttle, and so it was showing a orange glow of light. So I knew that was a scalar energetics that was shot at the space shuttle. And then I heard the feedback. I heard the loop on the astronauts on the feedback, probably about 30 seconds worth of chatter, and then the shuttle exploded. So what I'm saying is both of these shuttles were brought down by scalar energetic Russian weapons, and well, this is a fact. You can also read about it in Tom Bearden's book. With Russia, Soviet scalar energetics weapons, but the thing is that when the first time it happened in '86, I believe it was '85 or '86, NASA shuts down for 2.5 years. It's on the space program, and then they go back and they go through all of their systems analysis, and they check everything, and they didn't know what happened the first time with scalar energetics in '86. But in 2003, I think they assumed that what they had missed the first time, years later. And
Mark, can you stay with us? Let's talk a little bit more about this, because that's not what we were told. We were told it was a failure of O-rings. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. Mark in Illinois has joined us. Mark, you're talking about the space shuttle disasters, and astronauts have been killed. The 1986 one I saw on television. I saw the failure, and I saw what was told to us after that it was an O-ring failure from the Morton Thiokol Corporation, and that's what the Challenger disaster was blamed on. And some people think that when they saw that rocket spiral out of control with the white trail of, we'll call it smoke, exhaust, debris, propellant, most people thought that the astronauts died right then and there, but that's not true. They probably survived that, and when the cabin crashed at about 200 miles per hour into the sea, when it came back down to Earth, that's what probably killed them, that impact of about 200 times the force of gravity. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, any comments on that?
I have another theory on what happened, but I heard that they were trying a new experiment with cavitation to see if they could encapsulate the shuttle, and like they do the missiles in China. And what happened is it didn't work. That's what I heard. And that was from some Navy friends. It was a cavitation experiment.
Heck of an experiment. Mark, back to you.
Yeah, they were going to try to encapsulate the system, like the Chinese do a torpedo now that can go supersonic speeds in water.
Wow. Yeah, cavitation is the problem because, Glass, there's something known as hull speed in a ship or a boat. And based on the design of the hull, no matter how much horsepower you apply to it, you are limited to the hull speed. Is that right, Dr. Richard Allen Miller?
Yes, that has always been the problem because water is uncompressible. I mean, it doesn't compress, which means, it's got an incredible amount of drag.
Yes.
Mark, I remember growing up in Seattle with the unlimited hydroplanes. That was weird. Watching these big toys going around Lake Washington.
Mm-hmm. Mark?
Well, yeah, I could take you to something where Soviet Scalar energetics, when it comes to Russian submarine technology, we call it Hunt for Red October. But the other thing is that if you go back to 1963, you'll see that the flyover that we were doing in Cuba really revealed that the Russians were building a scalar energetics platform. Not only were they putting missiles down, but they were building something that we didn't really understand at that time, but we knew that it was something. And that was what they were building to use as a secondary, not their primary. The primary would have been their missiles, but their secondary system would have been the scalar energetics platform. It would have taken them years to get that running, but that's what they were building. So I'm going to tell you what I see as a prophet. I'm going to tell you exactly what I see, what I've been seeing in visions, what I've been seeing in just meditating. What I've seen in the Bible is that America is going to get hit with a scalar energetics Russian platform from outer space. It's going to be like Pearl Harbor. 20 cities are going to be hit with hydrogen bombs detonated over American cities. This is what I see. I have 100% accuracy on everything that I've ever said. And it's coming.
Mark, when do you see this?
I see this. I would say be ready. I would say be ready right now because it's there. They have a system in space and they can actually take out satellites. And so I believe it's happening right now. I believe that they're preparing for an event that will be like Pearl Harbor.
When you say they are preparing, do you mean the Russians are preparing to launch?
Yeah, I'm talking about Russian
attack?
KGB, scalar energetics, their GU program, their Russian scalar energetics. KGB runs all of that. And I believe that this is what they're preparing for. And they know, we know that our country is in a very vulnerable time right now because of the immorality and because of the things that are going on. And I don't believe that we have God's protection anymore. I believe that destruction is coming.
Mark, when you say these things, what comes to my mind, it goes back to the sum of stupidity and greed. It really does, and scientifically. And what I mean by that is we have become so consumed with electronic gadgets, electronic devices that do things for us, that without them, we would not be able to function very well. And so as you describe the 20-city takedown by the H-bomb or the hydrogen bomb, if we're talking about a grid down, we won't know which way is up. We'll be walking around confused, unable to perform functions, unable to get back up on our feet, in my opinion. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there'll be only two types. There'll be two classes of people, those who are burned and those who survive.
And what I'm saying is the ones who are not burned, the ones who do survive, those who are addicted to these electronic gadgets. And we can say that most of these gadgets would be like smartphones. We could say that they are televisions, things like that, that we are consumed by. We would not be able to get up because we don't know how to do very much without these gadgets. Is that what you were saying, or is this different?
No, I think that it's going to be we're going to have to learn how to rebuild our technology in a whole different manner. If you go back to Whittaker and Ohm in 1900, they published papers in 1900 about zero gravity. They had zero gravity technology over 100 years ago. They published it. You can read their papers. So, this technology is out there.
Dr. Richard Allen Miller, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, there's visionaries and there's depression. I just was reading a bunch of H.G. Wells. So there's a man that did a bunch of predicting and was dead on. I've seen the nuclear scenario that you're talking about. I've seen that by several other sources. I don't know where in recent weeks. So 20 cities, yes. Nobody's prepared. I don't have a clue. War is good for business. It's something about trying to control us through war, and that's it's crazy. I don't ascribe to those kinds of. Go ahead.
In Venezuela right now, people are looting the dead. People are literally looting the dead, looking for jewelry that they can steal from the dead in order to survive. I think that's where we're headed. Mark, if you're right about this, and we have a grid down situation, it will be absolutely awful. It will be dirty.
But we're going to have, there is technology. I don't want to specify what it is, but we do have technology in place that when these events occur, that we have to remove all this radiation, not only from these nuclear power stations, which will all be like, it'll be like a China syndrome and meltdown. But, we're going to have so much radiation in our atmosphere, we're going to have a way to remove it. And I believe, I don't want to say what it is on the air, but I do believe that there is a technology that's in place right now, and we'll be able to use this technology in the future to maybe in some ways terraform the earth all over again.
And how long would that take? How long did it take us to get to this point, and how long will it take us once we start over to get back? Because the machines are, in my opinion, like evolution. For example, you make the first machine, and that machine helps you make the next machine, and each machine you make helps you make better machines to make better machines to make better machines. But you've got to start with something. And we don't have enough coal I don't believe we have enough coal to rebuild the Industrial Revolution again, because we had cheap coal. Now coal is expensive. My grandfather would buy coal to heat his house on the East Coast. And he had a coal bin. And when he, literally in the basement, he had this bin. And the coal truck would come like a cement truck and have a chute. And they would position it toward this basement window. He'd open the window from the inside, The driver would then unload the coal through this series of chutes into his coal bin. And how much was it? $7 a ton. How much is it now? $200 a ton. So coal is now not cheap. Labor is not cheap. People don't want to work. How are we going to rebuild? How are we going to start the second industrial revolution without the coal and without people willing to work? Mark, if you'd like to hold, that would be fine. We're on with Dr. Richard Allen
thank
Miller. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. Richard, ALAN, Miller.com. Mark in Illinois is with us. And we're talking about, do we have enough labor, interested labor, and do we have enough coal to restart the second industrial revolution? Rick Miller, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know what to say about all of this. This is doom and gloom today.
It is. Because, you asked me in the beginning, how I'm doing, and I said I'm angry, and this is why. Rick, the mayor of London.
Yeah, anger isn't really a good, healthy thing.
I know that.
Yeah, is to try to find a center of an opportunity. When something looks bad, what you really have is an opportunity now to maybe change things from the way they were to the way they should.
I like that. I like that tack. I really do. However, there are so many bad things going on. I'm having trouble. When I say I'm angry, I don't mean I'm lashing out and beating my toolbox out. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm extremely disappointed, concerned, frustrated with the GDP, the generally dumb public, who are allowing these things to happen. For example, there's the mayor of London. His name is Sadiq Amar Khan. And he wants to ban wood stoves in London. Uh-huh. Now, I understand there's a problem with pollution. Well, how did that happen? Well, so many people have these old homes and they heat with wood. Okay. And then they encourage people to have diesel cars because they're more efficient. Then they say, I'm talking about England, then they say, oh my gosh, these diesels are polluting. So now we need to have an extra surcharge. You want to bring your diesel vehicle into London? Well, it's going to cost you about $16.35 every time you want to bring one in addition to the, let's say, $14 charge to bring, actually it's a little more than that, it's probably like $18 charge to bring your vehicle into London anytime there is congestion. Well, that would be what? From Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time. What I'm saying is when I say we, I don't mean me and you and Mark. I mean people have done these stupid things. Now we can't breathe in London, so we have to charge people more. Where does that money go? It goes to the government corporation, actually goes to the Queen. Who's allowed this in the first place? This is the kind of stupidity that is killing people on the planet. And what does the mayor of London say? We have to protect the children because their little lungs are breathing all these particles. Well, he's absolutely right. But who allowed it in the first place? And does he drive a big vehicle? Does he fly around and jet around? And does he have all the heat he wants? I'm sure he does. And does he have all the electric power consumption he wants? I'm sure he does. But the rest of us, we got to scale down. My point is, okay, let's scale down. You guys go first. Lead by example. I mean, you look at Steve Jobs, the former CEO and one of the founders of Apple Computer. He died of pancreatic cancer. People say that's terrible. He died of pancreatic cancer. I was thinking this morning, how did he get it? Is it because of experimenting with all of these microwave devices, all of these cell phones? Was he in a room where they had 50 of them or 100 of them all talking to each other? Did he carry one around in his pocket? Did he give himself cancer with his own devices, like the iPhone? I don't know. Apple would never tell us, would they? Any comments, Rick?
No, I'm going to be mellow today.
You are mellow today. Okay, Mark, did you want to hold?
Yeah, I'll hold. Thank you.
Okay, and we've got David in Illinois holding as well. By the way, David's going to be on with us tomorrow, 2-hour special about his childhood. Within the almost reach of John Wayne Gacy, the mass murderer. No kidding. No kidding. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Mark is on hold in Illinois. David is next in queue. Rick, you mentioned doom and gloom today. Yes, because it is doom and gloom class. There are cameras everywhere we go. We've got Alexa and Echo in the homes of people who used to be our friends, listening to every word that is being recorded and stored ad infinitum. We've got technology, microwave technology, that's killing us. Your neighbors have Wi-Fi that is seeping into your house. All of your neighbors have Wi-Fi. We've got cameras everywhere. We've got mold in our heating systems, in our ductwork. And the GDP is allowing all this to happen. In addition to that, we've got tire manufacturers who think that 4-ply sidewall tires, well, that's no way to go. We need to get down to 1-ply. That way we can have more flats. What's less than 1-ply tires? 0-ply. A 0-ply tire is a balloon. We've got appliances that are designed to fail, engineered to fail in just 5 years or less. Let me say it a different way. Can anybody fix his computer today? We can't even deal with the software, let alone the hardware. The computers today are integrated. They've got the networking, they've got the video, they've got the disk drive controllers, they've got the processors, they've got the video CPUs. All of that is put on one board. It's not diagnosable. You can't fix it. It's disposable. I maintain that we cannot live with the technology that we have built for ourselves. Stephen Hawking was absolutely, positively right. Rick, any comments?
Well,
it sounds like I'm angry, and I am.
Yeah, this is the singularity that everybody's talking about, where we're going to go right down into a black hole. That's technology going beyond itself.
Resist.
Well, yeah, and it's one possible thing that could happen. It doesn't mean it is going to happen. That's really important to remember.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying. It doesn't mean what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, the uranium, for example, they wanted to stick it on a rocket ship and shoot it into the sun.
Yeah, they've been talking about that for at least 50 years. The problem with that is, what if we have a launch failure like we have? Just look at Elon Musk.
Well, it's worse.
Does he get it right?
Who knows? I read a sci-fi book once called Sundiver, where the sun was a conscious entity. Had awareness. It was like a human being. It was an entity. It just was in a different form. And what did you think? Someone dumping all their waste on my property?
Yeah, right. Well, when they dumped their trash on my property, I posted an internet part on the website. I posted that said, if you trash my property, I'm going to fine you if I catch you. And then what happens? I get beat up for being not civil. People are trashing my property, throwing cans and bottles and all kinds of stuff on my property, and they think I'm not civil because I object to this? We've lost it. Mark, any quick comments?
Yeah, there
We've
are
got
many
David on hold.
events in play, and we can't ignore what's going on. I know a lot of people would like to ignore it, but something else that I talked to Doc Ram about was the solar plasma discharge, the vortex, the thermal geomagnetic fields, and what's going on with the supercells. And last time we talked, there was one developing, he mentioned, off the West Coast. Now there's another one developing. He's going to rip the planet apart. These are something you just can't ignore. These are also happening at the same time. And when these winds get up to 300, 400 miles an hour and they cut through cities, through your city, your big city, and they leave a death toll of about 80%, then you'll understand that you can't ignore it no more.
Well, Mark, you're absolutely right. Just yesterday, we had just a taste of the dust storms of the 30s. We had just a taste of it. The winds were kicking up. Dust was blowing everywhere. We couldn't go outside. It was terrible. I mean, there was no place to go other than inside. And fortunately, we have homes today that are much tighter than the old homes from the 1930s that leaked air under the doors, around the windows, through the walls. But it was absolutely terrible. Dust was blowing in. I would say dust pans full of dust would blow into our garage with just a couple gusts of wind. Dust pans full. No kidding. I am not exaggerating. A shoebox full of dust blew into our garage yesterday. And what have we we've got massive storms in the Midwest. Snow. Now. Yesterday. And right here in Missouri, just a couple states lower in the United States, from South Dakota, 73 degrees. But up there they have snowstorms. Minnesota, snow. What's going on? This is not normal.
Well, the other thing I just want to say, too, real quick, is that, I talked about scalar energetics.
Yes.
North Korea is going to get taken out. South Korea is going to get taken out. South Korea is going to get taken out. Guam's going to go, and Japan's all going to go at the same time. And that's where it's going to start. And when it starts there, it's going to escalate at the same time upon the United States. This is what's coming down. You better believe it, because it's coming.
And what do you think we should do?
Well, I think we should just prepare ourselves, mentally. That's the biggest thing, is to be prepared mentally, for what is coming, because, and spiritually, mentally and spiritually, because both of them are connected. And you want to put spiritual first and mental. That's exactly what it is, because, when things happen, if you're just not, so many people will panic, so many people will just give up. So many people will just kill themselves.
They're doing that right now. People have given up right now.
Right now, with all this technology, they're doing it, and they don't think anything of it.
I talked to a woman last week, and she has cancer, and I said, "Okay, do you listen to the radio?" No. Okay, so I figured, okay, she doesn't listen to the radio. She doesn't read either. I asked her if she knew the name Dr. Norman Shealy. No. This woman's from Springfield, middle-aged gal. She has cancer. I said, I'll tell you what, if you'll call, I'll give you the number. You can call. I'll put you on the air, and we'll give you as much time as you need, and he will help you. She doesn't want to do it. She said, I don't even know if I want to survive. That's where she was. What do you say to someone who says, I don't even know if I want to live? What do you say?
That's what a lot of people would say with this doomsday scenario. They'd say, well, I don't know if I really want to survive that. Why would I want to survive that?
I want to survive it. And then when it's all over, I want to go hunting. I want to go hunting for the people who caused it. That's what I want to do. Now, people may say, Vinny, that's really not very nice. Really? Because I want to prevent him from doing it again. I'm serious. Some of you may think I've lost it. I'm sorry if you think that way. But what do you do? What do you do with people who kill the planet? What do? You say, listen, look, we got to do a better job next time. That's what government corporations do when they make massive mistakes. Well, we're going to have to look at it. We're going to have a meeting. We're going to have to do a better job. We're going to try harder next time. Really? Why not get it right the first time, like the rest of us try to do?
What do you do with the public that you tell them the truth and they just keep ignoring it and they keep ignoring it and somehow they think it's going to go away because it's just doom and gloom. We don't want to think that way.
Well, okay, Mark, you brought up a really good point, and those are the people I call the GDP, the generally dumb public. That's what I'm talking about. I'm frustrated with them. So here's my thought. I'm walking away from them. I don't want anything to do with them. They are not welcome on my property. They're not welcome on my farm. They're not welcome in my house. People who vote for stupid things are not my friends. I'll say it the way it really is. They are my enemies. They are trying to steal from me and my family. They're trying to steal my hard-earned efforts and anything I've saved. My equipment, they want money. They want money for everything. I got threatened by some jerk on the internet. He wants me to pay reparations for the good advice that we provide here on USA Prepares. This moron literally is demanding a part of my farm as reparations for the things that I say. Really? I have gone galt. I don't want anything to do with people like this. If they're starving, will I help them? Absolutely not. They want everything I have, and they have no right to any of it. I'm outraged. I'm angry. And I deserve to be. And I'm not helping people. When people cut me off, if I see them up ahead with a flat tire, I'm going to drive right past them. I'm not helping them. Because they're the GDP. I've tried to lower our electric bills. I've tried to be a good village member, but it doesn't pay off. So I'm just interested in helping me. They've taught me that they don't like to be helped. We'll be right back with David. Son walked into the studio during the break, and he just kind of stood there and looked at me. And he's in his mid-20s. He just stood and looked at me. And I said, what's up? And he said, everything okay? I said, yeah. He said, I heard you slam your fist. And I did. I slammed my fist on the studio table. I'm sure you all heard it. David in Illinois, welcome.
How you doing? I want to say something real quick before I tell you what I called for. I want to thank you just now. Okay? I thought me and Dee were alone in the way we thought, and I was afraid to say what you said on your show because I was afraid you and some of your listeners would think that we will wind up turning into monsters. And I now know we're not. What you said is exactly what we're going through and how I feel. That when something happens, I want to go hunting. I'm sorry. I feel like why even bother to lock my door anymore? Why not just take it off? Because why do you have this stuff? Why can't we have it? They just assume to take. And with us, whenever they need a body to experiment with, I'm just supposed to walk in there and let them do it. So I thank you for that. That I appreciate.
Well, I'm very frustrated. I mean it. I've been threatened by an internet troll, an absolute abysmal jerk who really thinks that he deserves reparations for what we are trying to teach people. He's lost his mind, literally. And we are surrounded by jerks just like him. He's not the only one. Unfortunately, there are a bunch of these jerks. And literally, what do they do to what do they do to help the rest of the village? Do they do anything? I hardly think so.
Nothing.
Right. I'm okay. Here we go. I'd like to. Let me just. Okay. Okay. Here it is. Here's the world's foremost jerk. Sorry to take the time, but I want to do this. This is on the Ron Gibson channel. This is the last time I'm going to refer to these jerks. They don't deserve the airtime. This guy says, when USA Prepares goes down, we detractors will have to go into retirement, and we demand retirement benefits from you and all the instructors. So, Vinny, start subdividing your farm now for parcels to be sold out for our immediate compensation. This guy is telling me that he deserves reparations for what we talk about on the air. They demand it. I got to tell you, Keith Woods, that's what this jerk says his name is. It's not. But come and try. You're welcome to try. Why don't you come this afternoon? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. These are... He says that, by the way, I'd like to thank Roy Dean Blunt of Missouri. That's of Missouri. This is what his words. I'd like to thank Roy Dean Blunt, U.S. Senator Roy Blunt, for his efforts to soon rid the airwaves of USA Prepares and apologize for the evil comments that the Doomsday Prepper made against him. I assume he means I'm the Doomsday Prepper. We're talking about a guy who, Mr. Monsanto, the guy who supports protecting Monsanto from lawsuits. Roy Blunt of Missouri. So, go ahead.
Okay. I was listening to I wound up listening to a show the other night, and they were talking about these, and you brought up about the plain spraying, chemical spraying. And I listened to the show, and they were accusing, and I know how you feel about China. So they were accusing China going back and forth across our continent, spraying, like our government would allow this to happen. And they said our government wouldn't do such a thing to us. So I'm willing to give you some information I have about what was called seeding the atmosphere, okay? If you want to have it.
Hold that thought. Rick Miller and I'd love to hear this. We'll be right back. Rick, you've been uncharacteristically quiet today. What's up?
Well, you guys are on doom and gloom, and I don't want to add to that. It's going to just lead to more road rage. I'll do the tech.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you disagree with what we've been saying?
I don't want to go out and shoot somebody for what they've done.
Well, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about when everything comes apart and we've lost everything that we've all built. Okay?
Yeah.
All the innocent victims of all of this calamity that's being brought down on us. I'd like to have a nice chat with these people.
Well, yeah, that's called tribunals and war crimes.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about bringing these people up before a group of the villagers who have been wiped out, totally wiped out, because of the insatiable greed of these predators. That's what I'm talking about. How do you try someone adequately for destroying the bee colonies? How do you try someone for the widespread cancers from electromagnetic radiation? How do you try someone who, like the people who ran the Hooker Chemical Company that polluted the aquifer and all of the employees around there? What do you do with that? That is greed. Okay. Hey, this is toxic stuff. We don't want it. So let's just dump it. That's what's happening all over. What about the innocent victims, the animals, the sea life that is swimming in a sea of plastic trash, being trapped in it, eating it, thinking it's food, dying from eating it because of the insatiable greed of the people who dump the plastic trash in the ocean? What do you do with people like that? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about rounding them up.
You try to show them a better way, Vincent. Like, I remember when I was a kid and fast food just came out and people threw their wrappers and their plastic out the window, which was littering. And we didn't have litter laws at that time. And I remember how I was trained, like cursive, on certain things that you would do and certain things that you would not do that were appropriate and best for the planet and all the people around you. I notice on my street here where I live, there's litter on the road, and people that live there bust each of their own properties except this one guy, and he doesn't do his property. He just lets it sit there. Choices. And everybody has a right to make their own choice on things, and I don't have the answer on it. Nuclear energy, David, and the waste on that is a real serious problem.
But it's based on greed. It's based on, we don't want to deal with it, so we'll just dump it. We'll dump it someplace else where we don't have to see it, where we don't have to think about it. We'll let somebody else deal with it. It costs way less to clean it. It costs way less to take care of the problem by not overpackaging than it does to clean up the mess caused by overpackaging.
Yeah.
David? Yeah. David, you were talking about chemical spraying. Please continue.
Yeah.
Overwrapping.
Now, my dad was involved in security for the planes that were doing the spraying all the way through the 60s. They gave him letters after they acknowledged it, saying they're monitoring his health and family's health, in which case they think that's a possibility why I'm the way I am and my wife. Now, he went back to that secure air base. The card I have says it started, which I'm not supposed to probably have the card, but he gave it to me to keep for records, in 1989. And he stayed there for quite a while until he told me why he left. Now, he got another letter updating in 2015 where they add 3 more lines of health monitoring they had to do. And he said, this is because they did the seeding of the sky. At first he said spraying. I said, what's spraying? He said, seeding of the atmosphere. That's what we were guarding. We were doing that amongst a few other things. And I'm like, so if they're not doing it, why did they put it on a federal paper and send it to him for monitoring the side effects?
Good point. And did it impact his health?
Oh, yeah. It was either that or the fire pits that caused him. He had another guy from Area 51 came out, and he died from the same exact thing that my dad did.
What did your dad
die of? A rare form. It was some kind of rare form of a lung cancer that just filled the whole lung up rapidly. And, he didn't tell me about this until right before, when he started telling me more information, and he told me where a lot of documents were at. But he shared everything, and he told me why he left the base. So this base they had there is where he was in charge of guarding the stealth fighters, which he told me about. Okay, those things were highly classified. And he's telling me about this stuff. And he also told me about why he left. And he left because of the discs that they had in the one hangar. Every time he had to go there, he said, I had to kill people for the government. Didn't care. As long as they ordered me, didn't care. Do what with bodies, don't care. He said, but when you do all that all your life, and then you go and you see something like that in the hangars and that they're working on them, he said, I just could not get by it. My neck on the hair of my back stood up. He said, I had to get out of there right away. He said,
are you saying, David, that your father saw flying saucers?
Discs, yes, inside that one hangar whenever he had to go over there. I never
Rick,
heard him so feared in my life. I mean, he was truly in fear when he brought that up, you know.
Rick,
and he actually got a call afterwards.
Rick, your comments about flying saucers, flying discs?
No, I don't. No.
Okay.
You know,
all right, David.
I tell you, I never believe that stuff, and I'll never totally believe it unless I see it. But I'm gonna tell you, he's either never told me something, he's either showed me photographs, pictures, or told me, and he's never lied. And this guy was truly scared. You know.
What do you think he was afraid of, David?
He said he explained to me. He said when you see something like that, the weapons you have, everything you think you know about, just goes out the window. You see that in the fact that they're working on them. He said they're working on the things, and he said I had to watch and guard these. You didn't go over there unless you were ordered to go there. Everywhere you had to go, you had to be ordered. In this base, they hooked them up to wires and polygraphs every month, a month and a half. And I'm going to tell you how they grabbed. He told me why they sent them over there right away. They had to ask him a question. If you were ordered to kill your mother by the government, would you do it? And while he's hooked up, he said yes. And they sent him right on over there right away. You know, and but he said, I mean, he has. I've seen photographs. I've been with him at homicide scenes. I've seen all that. I've been given experiences that in access to information no child or anybody I doubt ever will have. And I honestly, I don't think, he was truly scared. You know, I mean, he was.
David, did he say he would kill his mother for the government?
Yeah.
Do you think he really meant it?
Oh, yeah. He actually told, he says, that's why he told me afterwards, he said, if you talk about any of this stuff before I'm gone, he said he would take out my own wife. You know, so why do you think I ain't talked about none of this stuff for so long? Because he said, I had to answer those questions. He said, I'd do it. They knew he would do it. You had to get hooked up every month to month and a half. You know, that's the only reason he left that place is because of those ships.
The airships, you mean?
Yes. And then he got transferred, and they sent him right away to a place called Federal Law Enforcement Academy. In which case he was telling me all about the abilities to hack in the cameras. And that's when I was working on computers for people. And and a lot of people didn't believe me at first when I was telling them. And then Snowden came out. One guy came up to me, and he worked at another classified company, retired. He said, I knew they somewhat could do it, but I didn't think it was as bad as you said. And he said, I'm sorry, I didn't believe you. I'm like, okay, told you. You know.
You're talking about computer spying and snooping and computer surveillance?
Yeah, how they were able to access phones, cameras, and they were talking about when the first phones started coming out with just little cameras. And computers first started having webcams on them. People were buying webcams. Yeah. They trained him, and he had to go train with other people at this technical, where they do the more technical and forensics and software, and that was in Atlanta, Georgia at that place. And he's calling me every day to make sure that he knows exactly where I am, so I won't say anything about anything. And he's telling me all about what they're teaching and what they're working with. I gotta say, David, you're a computer guy. That's what I was doing, and I wish I had my hands on some of that stuff to see how good it worked. You know.
Well, back in the early 1990s, we used modems, demodulators, to send data over telephone lines. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, I was able to build a voice, video system, video telephone system that would run over a telephone line, a regular standard, what's called a POTS line, plain old telephone service. So you could have your computer hooked up to a modem, and this system would allow you to video teleconference point to point, any place you could place a landline telephone call. And it absolutely positively worked. And I believe we did it around 1993 at a cost of about $1,200. And it wasn't all that hard to do. So if I could do that, imagine what big bucks could do. David, thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Doc Ram and I will continue. Thank you. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us, richardallenmiller.com, richardalanmiller.com. Rick, there are people who believe that there are fragments of the Spanish flu virus, smallpox, bubonic plague, that are all buried in Siberia and Alaska. And if we have more warming, if the sun is getting hotter, which it really is in my neck of the woods here in Missouri, they could be released from their frozen state and wreak havoc again as they did before. I'm talking about Spanish flu, smallpox, and bubonic plague. Do you have a concern about that?
Yeah, yeah. It's how would you like to live in China? You know, they catch you, they post you in public jaywalking because they don't give tickets. It's going to go downhill with technology real quick.
So, Rick, are you saying that you support my thoughts about we've passed the point of no return? We've crossed the line where the average person cannot deal with technology that we have created, that because of that, we are going to go down?
I think we're in more trouble than we realize. We don't have solutions to a bunch of serious, life-threatening problems right now. We've been here before, other epochs, where whole civilizations are gone. How's that work? I have a lot of concern and think that man will survive, but it just would seem that a simpler way of life. Would you like to live in L.A., where you have an hour or more to commute to work? Because where you live is, not where you work, like Seattle.
No, I don't like a commute any longer than I already have.
Yeah, the problems
my commute
that
is
are
just
happening,
walking across the farmhouse.
Yeah, the problems that are happening now are ill-planned. Like right now, we have marijuana going everywhere, and it's a wide-open rodeo. The laws aren't in place yet. Nobody knows what they're doing. They want to tax it. They want to do this. They want to do that. Nobody really knows what they're doing, and so we try to find some kind of direction. It would seem that there's a lot better ways of power than nuclear energy. I think that's the single largest problem in the world right now is nuclear energy. And now the military want to make reactors that are portable reactors that they can use in terms of war. Get a grip. It's just nuts. There's better ways to do things. There's always a greener pasture away. And I don't have the answers. I just know what I don't want to do, and that's that. Now I just won't participate.
Going Galt. Rick, I was thinking about what would it be like if Dr. Richard Allen Miller, my dear friend, were involved in the Manhattan Project in the 1940s. So here's what I'm thinking, Rick. So you're in this room with the other scientists, and you have this ball of uranium. And it's so deadly, if it gets out of its lead shielding, the whole room is going to die of radiation poisoning. Now, I cannot imagine Dr. Richard Allen Miller saying, I'll tell you what, we don't have very much of this stuff. We need more of it. So when we get more of it, hey, this will be really neat because we can cause an explosion and we can send this in a multi-mile radius. Is that the coolest thing? Rick, would you ever participate in something as stupid as that? I can't imagine it.
Well, I did wear a dosimetry badge. I was working high energy physics for a while. That's creepy.
But would you unleash radioactivity on the planet the way the scientists did at for the Manhattan Project?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I wouldn't either. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm concerned, and that's what you heard from all of us here on USA Prepares.